Cool. Hey guys, sorry about that. It seems like we have some technical difficulties when I start and stop sharing the screen. So bear with that while we go through this. My story gets interesting in 2009. I was in my freshman year at USC University in Southern California, and I wasn't very happy. I was there for a business major. I had thought school was the answer, like, taken every honors course and SAT class, and really thought that was going to, give me a good future that I was happy with. And in school, I was basically being taught how to be a manager. And that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to make my own company, make really interesting things. But I really wasn't sure of what that was going to be yet. So I went home for winter break, and I happened upon a book that was on my dad's bookshelf, just total happenstance. And it was a book about positive thinking and meditation, but kind of from a scientific perspective. It was called The New Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz, for anyone who's interested. But basically, it gave me a really great kind of like logical structure to why positive thinking and meditation was an important tool. So I went back to school and started meditating in the bathrooms, just like in the stall, because that was the only place having roommates that I could get peace and quiet, not be distracted. And it really changed everything for me. And I started using stumbleupon.com, which was a great website at the time. And I selected the meditation and kind of like self-improvement category and started stumbling upon a wealth of content about things kind of like in that same vein that I'd never heard before. And it started completely changing the way that I was thinking about the world. And I realized that there wasn't really a website out there that talked about all those different topics in one place. So the idea for what later became HighExistence was born. And I decided to drop out of college and say basically no to something that wasn't feeling aligned or it wasn't exciting me at all. And ended up just staying in the dorms and writing out the rest of the year, not going to class. And if you're asking, it was The New Psycho-Cybernetics. There we go. Dr. Maxwell Maltz. Let's see. So I wasn't going to class, so I had a lot of time on my hands and decided to make a blog. Initially, I bought the domain The Intellectual Stoner, very not unknown side story of the origins of HighExistence. And the original idea was actually a website that would give you interesting things to think about when you're high. And then eventually I changed it to HighExistence, which is why it's called HighExistence. But then I figured out, this is stuff that everyone would be interested in, not just people who are high, but the name still kind of made sense of raising your existence, learning, development. So we kept it. And that's why it's called HighExistence today. Grammatically dubious, but it seemed to have worked. And let's keep in mind here, I had zero experience with website design or blogging. I had been, on the newspaper team in high school, but I was writing sports articles. I really didn't have any experience doing what I was about to be doing. And so pretty much just thought, okay, I want to start a website. What's the first step in building a website? Like a domain. Okay, cool. I got the domain. Now what's the next step? I need to make it. What tools are available? And this is before tools like Wix and all these really easy kind of drag and drop website creators. So I happened upon WordPress as something that would give me the flexibility to create, a website as new and interesting as HighExistence was. And then I figured out I don't like this theme. It's not what I want. It looks like I need to learn HTML and CSS to make it look how I want. And then just started Googling okay, HTML course. And that was pretty much, what building HighExistence was all about, is every day waking up and being okay, I did all this stuff already. Cool. I wrote an article. I published my first article yesterday. How many readers? 0. My mom, maybe 1 viewer. Cool. I know this is something. I know this can be something. And what can I do today to push it forward one more step towards being something fantastic? And I did that for 2 years. At the end of the year, I left college and I went and lived in my parents' house for another 2 years after that, in a very interesting state of being simultaneously very excited about what I was building, and also a lot of overthinking and thinking, man, I still have 0 readers after 6 months. Did I make the right decision? Should I have stayed in college? Was this like all just a really bad idea? But for whatever reason, I kept going. Mainly because it was exciting. It was so fun to learn new things and to dive into something that I had no experience in, and getting that feeling of getting better and better and better and closer to something every day. And then readership started, going up slowly but surely. It really took a full over a year to have any kind of readership worth mentioning. And then really ironically, at some point, I think it was about a year and a half in, StumbleUpon, which was a big inspiration for the content that HighExistence was actually built upon, started dumping traffic on HighExistence. I think this made a lot of sense. StumbleUpon was for content that you didn't really know you were searching for. Let me just open HighExistence here. You guys are probably familiar, but just to make it more visual. So I transcend the ordinary. Let's see. So it took a while. Like, it wasn't like overnight success or anything like that. There was no feedback mechanisms to say what you're doing is a good idea and you should keep doing it. It was just curiosity and excitement about an idea, and then taking small steps forward for a long time. And then eventually, I think it was probably like 4 years in, was the real height of HighExistence. I brought in Martine as a partner about a year or so in, and then we hit a height of 3 million page views a month. Talking about the weird shit, meditation, psychedelics, productivity, self-improvement, stuff that before then had been relegated to kind of obscure websites that if you landed on, you felt like either they were trying to sell you something or they were trying to steal your credit card. So it was pretty cool. I mean, keep in mind, 2009, this is before Headspace and before all these other apps. Meditation was weird. It was for Buddhists, or that person that had gone to India and come back and you didn't understand why they were doing it. So it was really cool to see that blow up and blossom. But let me continue on from here. So then I moved to Canada to start help build a sustainable community and movement called the Bahala Movement, which I'll kind of skip over the fine details for the purpose of this talk. But while I was there, I wanted to try something else. I wanted to try building something else. Kickstarter had just become, kind of a big thing. I think maybe it was 2 years old at that point. And I had an idea for a clothing company where I would take really trippy psychedelic art, kind of like Alex Gray, if you guys are familiar with that, and print it on t-shirts, kind of like for festivals and raves, and then do a Kickstarter campaign to raise money for it. So this is project number 2, the way I think about it. And again, zero experience doing e-commerce or products or like clothing or fashion or working with artists or anything like that. I had a little bit of skills that I could apply to this from building HighExistence, like setting up Google Analytics and designing a website. But that's pretty much it. Everything else about launching Rave Nectar was totally new. So I started applying that same methodology of thinking. I'm like, okay, cool. I want to start a clothing company. I have this idea. I need designs. Okay, cool. So I'm going to reach out to a bunch of artists. And this is kind of pre-Instagram. This is what, 2012? Yes, 2012, 2013. And I found 10 artists that were into the idea. They'd get 20% of every sale of their shirt. And I just was like, okay, cool. I have these designs. Now I need a manufacturer. So I just started asking people online, Googling, and eventually found a printer out of Boston that would print on demand, meaning we didn't need to place a large order for inventory. And I was like, okay, cool. So I have these 2 pieces. And now Kickstarter, crowdfunding, like, what is that? Let's do that. And then just started researching heavily similar campaigns that worked out, and learning how to format it. And I'd never made video or been on video before. Luckily, I was living with someone who had a camera, made a really janky video. Here, actually, you can look at it right now really quick. Kickstarter Rave Nectar. There we go. I almost forgot to have this tagline. This isn't clothing, it's an experience. This is me with a broken wrist, sporting one of the initial prototypes in the backyard in Canada. You can see that snow, and had one of my roommates make this crazy logo. And you guys can watch this horrible video that somehow did well. We raised $70,000, and Rave Nectar was now a thing. And that entire company basically came from this one campaign. And you might be thinking like, oh, you had HighExistence, you had millions of page views, and you used that to make this a big thing. That's actually not at all what happened. A kind of downside to the way I do things, jumping from one category to another, is that it's hard to leverage what I've already built to help the next thing. So this was all reaching out to blogs, reaching out to social accounts, and getting friends to share. This was completely organic, and having the artists share as well. But it wasn't the success of this was not a product of already having built something big. It was a product of working hard and being methodical and moving one step at a time towards a goal. We later did another Kickstarter campaign for this for yoga mats, and that did even better. This is from not 2018. I think it was like 2015, 2016. They raised $193,000. And same thing, just like printing art on yoga mats. So then I moved to New York. My friend Alex had an idea for a media company, kind of like HighExistence, but about technology in the future, called Futurism. You guys may be familiar with. The idea there was pretty similar to HighExistence. There's all this cool stuff that's happening in the world: artificial intelligence, self-driving cars, cryptocurrency, gene editing, and people don't know about it. And at that time too, we were feeling like there was a lot of fear out there about AI and robots taking over the world, and gene editing and like cloning and stuff like that. And there wasn't enough excitement about it like Alex and I had. So we started Futurism to basically bring all that stuff to the mainstream and get people excited about science and technology and the future. We can't take credit for this, of course, but that's happened. Like, Elon Musk is mainstream news. People are excited about space and AI. It's like it's common in the zeitgeist now. So I'm going to kind of skip over the story of this one just in the agency of time, but it was very, very similar to HighExistence, of just two guys in actually in an office above a bagel shop called Bagel Smith in New York City. Sorry, three guys. We had a third partner named Dan. And just writing our own content and designing a website and putting it out there and having 0 readers, and just taking step by step, and then getting funding, and eventually getting up to 10 million page views a month, and a team of 50. And I got to thank Alex for a big portion of that. He was huge and incredible and amazing, and I love him. And then it was sold to Singularity University in 2019. And now they've grown it even larger, and it's up to 30 million page views and one of the more popular websites about the future in the world. So that was Futurism. And then a subplot of that was at Futurism, ads weren't making any money. We weren't making nearly enough money to sustain the business. So we had the idea of doing something I was familiar with, crowdfunding, and launching something called the Gravity Blanket, which you guys may have heard of. It was actually a product that was launched within Futurism. We're trying to sell our own products versus selling other people's products. We happened across this idea by a really cool guy named John Fiorentino. They came to us with a few concepts, and we ran with the Gravity Blanket. And that was, if you guys are familiar, was a huge success. Let's see. If you guys aren't familiar with the product, it's a weighted blanket that is 15 to 25 pounds. That if you put it on yourself, it kind of makes you feel like you're being hugged. It's been used in the medical communities for a long time, and it's for people with anxiety and people with PTSD and also kids with autism. But we saw this and we're like, oh, everyone's anxious and can't sleep and is stressed because it's 2018 or whatever it was. So we raised 4.7 million on that one. It was, at the time, it was the 18th biggest crowdfunding campaign of all time. And let's see, I wanted to go more into detail about these stories, but I already see that we're 20 minutes in. But if I was to go into detail, you would see once again that the same kind of methodology was being used here. Like, I know nothing about blankets, or at that time using Chinese manufacturers, and it was just like, okay, what's the first step in this? Let's come up with a name and then many dominoes after that, leading to something that is now a worldwide brand. So I'm going to skip forward to the next thing, because it's probably the best example, frankly, of what I'm talking about here, and that is zero space. I left Futurism in, let's see, January 2018, with the idea to do something really weird, really strange, something that was inspired by going to Burning Man and seeing all the incredible art installations out there, and wanting to bring that type of experience back to New York City, back to a place where there was millions of people every year coming there that would never be caught dead at Burning Man, and so could never have these experiences. You can kind of see the trend here is like finding something weird that's great and more people should know about, and then doing something to bring it into the mainstream so people can experience it. This has been like a 2-year project. Let's see. So I brought on my partner from Brave Nectar. His name's John Kreitzer. Shout out if you're watching, John. You're the best. I love you. And it was just him and me. He was actually in Ohio, living there for the first 6 months while we were working on this, emailing people, pretending he was in New York, and me just sitting in my apartment every day, not being too social. And, same kind of process, chose the name, Zero Space. Sounds pretty cool. Like, why not? Sure. Made a website that made it look halfway legitimate, and then just started reaching out to artists. And this is, a totally different type of artist than Rave Nectar. It was, large scale installation artists, digital artists, people using lasers and 3D sound and like really crazy immersive installations. So new challenge completely. At the same time, we needed money to do this. This is going to be very, very expensive. And while we did raise money at Futurism, that was all my partner Alex. So I'd never raised money before. So I made a deck, which actually I'll share it in the chat here, because this is totally public. You guys can see the origins of raising money for something. There we go. Yeah, so there's that. That's the original deck, hasn't changed at all. And just started passing it around to friends. And I happened upon one who happened to know a crew of investors who were kind of like old, stodgy white guys and had never been to Burning Man, and didn't have any real reason to invest in something like this. But I went to them with a tremendous amount of excitement and passion, and walked out with a very good feeling. And we ended up raising $3.5 million to build this in the heart of New York City. But that's stepping forward a little bit. This was actually the craziest balancing act that I've ever had to do. With the help of John, basically, we were reaching out to investors at the same time as touring at least 50 different locations all around Brooklyn and New York, and trying to find the perfect space for this giant space that the intention was to make or combine the crazy art that's at Burning Man, these large-scale immersive digital installations, with immersive theater. Sorry. I had gone to see Sleep No More and Then She Fell, which, in case you're not familiar, are these immersive theater experiences in New York. Immersive theater is the idea that you go to a play, but instead of you being in the audience, you are inside of the play. So we, trying to combine two weird things into one. And the hard part was that if you talk to investors, they want to know that you have a space that you have in mind and you have locked down. And then if you're talking to real estate agents and landlords, they want to know that you have money for down payments and rent. And we had neither of those things, and we were kind of like pushing both things forward every single day and hoping they landed at the same time, and kind of just like not really bullshitting, but smoothing the truth a little bit on both sides until we had both. So luckily for us, it took about a year of doing that. And then somehow, miraculously, both things landed at the same time. We found this crazy 25,000 square foot space in Midtown Manhattan, right across from Penn Station and Madison Square Garden, and then signed the deal for the investment. Basically there was a week difference between the two. So somehow it all landed. And then we spent the next 6 months basically killing ourselves, again, doing things we've never done before, dealing with permits and New York City law and construction and all this stuff. And in a matter of 4 months, going from a core team of 2 people to then 4 people and then 80 or 90 employees. It was the most insane dash that I've ever experienced. I've never been wrong so many times before, made so many expensive mistakes. It wasn't like HighExistence and making a mistake in code where I could just push a fix and then it's all good. It's like if you make a mistake in the physical world, you pay for it. And it takes a long time and a lot of money to fix it. So we launched in August and made one of the craziest things in New York City. And that's on pause right now, obviously, because people can't even leave their homes, let alone assemble in a place that is mostly beanbags looking at art. Yeah, so I've already talked about myself far more than I wanted to, but I just wanted to give you guys an idea of what I've done, and also just seeing what's possible when you use this type of methodology of just doing one step at a time. Each one of these things was me starting at square one, more or less, and being like, okay, this is a crazy huge undertaking. Like, oh my gosh, I have no idea how this is all going to work out. But I know that if I just take one step at a time, then it will. Let's see. So now we're going to switch and talk about, well, let's talk about these principles first really quick. There's kind of 5 things that we're going to be going through, and the recurrent themes you might have already seen come up in that conversation. The first is that you will always start off not knowing. Everyone starts off at square one. No one knows what they're doing. Anyone from me to Elon Musk starting a rocket company, like no one knows what they're doing at first, and that's totally okay. That's where you should be. And the way that you find out how to do something is by doing it. You don't learn how to do it and then do it. It's a process, and it's really fun. And then number 2 is taking one step at a time. You don't need to know step 100, step 1000. Don't even think about that. All you need to know is the immediate step that you can take today that moves you closer to step 100 or 1000, which is that 3rd principle: take one step per day, and you win. That's pretty much it. There's very few things in the world where if you take one step per day toward that goal, you will not reach that goal. And if it's not working, I'd say that whatever you're working on isn't aligned, or you are one of the very few people who has too lofty of an ambition. And then 4, which is super important and kind of precedes all of this, is be excited about it. If you're not over the moon excited about what you're going to do, you're going to fail. Because it takes a tremendous amount of excitement. Creating something, it could be the entrepreneurial journey, or it could be kind of the artistic creative journey. It takes a lot out of you. It's really, really hard. It's a giant energy roller coaster of excitement and then depression and booms and crashes. It is crazy. So you need to be really excited about what you're building and excited about that long-term goal for you to be able to ride those waves and make it through and go all the way. And then number 5, I mentioned my partners, who I dearly love in that conversation. I built HighExistence alone for a year until I brought in Martine. And I've since learned that building stuff alone is just not a good idea. If it's your only option, if it's something where maybe you're uniquely suited to build it yourself, even then you're probably mistaken. Seek partners from day one. Try to find someone else who is excited about it as you, who can help you on this, because they're going to bring a skill set that you don't have, and also a perspective that you don't have. And it's just amazing that, on this roller coaster, to have someone else you guys keep propping each other up. When one person's feeling down, chances are the other person is not, and you guys can just keep balancing each other out. It's huge. Okay, cool. Enough talking. Now we're going to make it more about you and make this more participatory. So I want you guys to think about your idea, the thing that you'd like to put your time into. And we're going to write this in the comment thread, but do not post it yet. We're going to try and do just like a mass post. Everyone do it at one time and just see what that's like. So some things for this. If you already have an idea you're working on, great, use that. If you have too many ideas, that's cool. That's a super common problem, or I'm actually curious where the poll is at in terms of that. Let's see where you guys are at. Let's see. So I don't know how to do it or where to start. I procrastinate. Yeah. Wow. It's crazy how popular that one is compared to the other ones. That's perfect for this. And then do you know what you want to create? Yes. Let's see. Most of you, yes, but haven't started yet. Perfect. And then, yeah, it seems like a pretty equal distribution here. If you guys haven't voted on that poll, please hit that poll tab next to the chat and cast your votes for those top 2 polls, just so everyone here kind of knows, you know, where other people are at, and just to see that you're not alone in feeling this way. Okay, but to go back to the task at hand, if you have no idea what you want to work on, that's totally fine too. You just need to come up with any kind of idea for this. Like, you know, it could be a totally fake idea. It could be an app that helps people find out what their favorite ice cream flavor is. Whatever it is, just write something down and commit to it. And let's just, for the purpose of the next, 27 minutes, you're going to pretend that this is something you're super amped about and you're going to be doing in the real world after this call, after Metamorphosis. I'll give you guys a few minutes to think about that and just get that idea ready in the chat thread. If you guys have any questions related to that, I'm looking at the comment thread right now, and I can answer them live just while everyone else is thinking. Yes, I can. There we go. Oh, don't post it yet, guys. Hold on. And also, if you could be a little more specific, it's actually good these guys posted. John, if you can, what in biotech? Jenny, blog page, what's your blog about? If you don't know yet, that's okay. But even for the purpose of this, just stating a specific type of blog or type of biotech company would be really helpful. Same for you, Gabriel. What kind of e-commerce company? You can make up a fake product right now. You can make it a heavier gravity blanket. That's fine. Ours aren't heavy enough. You want to make 60-pound blankets. That's a great one. I don't know how to say your name. Freemut Johannes. Yeah, that's more of a separate discussion of like how to find the thing. So for the purpose of this, just so you get actual utility out of this, just use any idea that comes to mind. And you guys probably have some ideas. Like, you're humans, you guys are inherently creative. There's probably something, even if you don't feel really confident about it, that's fine. It'll be so much better if this is something that you've actually thought of and would do. Cool. Some cool ideas coming through here. Data privacy podcast. All right. Topical. Yeah, even Sergio started a digital travel business. If you could be a little more specific, it's just going to help you in general and through this exercise. I'll leave you guys 60 more seconds here just to think about it. Totally cool if you're not 100% convinced this is the thing. This is just an exercise. No commitment whatsoever. It also doesn't need to be a company. You know, that's just my thing. But let's say you want to start learning how to paint, and that's something too. It doesn't have to make money. And you don't need to know how it will make money. That's fine. if by chance you're just tuning in, this is what we're doing. People are posting in the comment thread what their idea is, what they want to build and use for the remainder of this video chat. And we'll just get rid of that since people are posting. It was a fun idea though. Meditation Park. Interesting. That's a new one. Psychedelic thriller screenplay. Got some cool ideas here. Masterclass, but for YouTube creators. Cool. What's up, Steven? Okay, cool. So some very cool ideas out there. Thank you guys for sharing and even temporarily committing to building something. That's more than most people do. So love this. All right. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is Slash, and I'm just going to touch on this briefly. But the thing I've been focused on during quarantine is this productivity app called Slash. And this is something that if you guys want to download this and use this for the remainder of the exercise, feel free. It's getslash.co, which I'll post in the thread right here. But this is basically an app that's built to help you do what I'm talking about and to hyper-focus in and do one thing at a time and make meaningful steps towards your goal. The intention is to reduce distractions and just make it more achievable. So I'll walk you through that right now. And if it's cool, if this is for Windows and Mac, if you're on Linux or you're on your phone or you just don't want to do this, totally cool. Just open up like a notes app or a to-do list or like anything at all where you can write down the rest of it. So if you hit try it now, it's going to download. You know what? If you guys are on slow internet connections, this might take too long, but let's see. Dun, 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 dun. I'll start walking you through it just to save time while it downloads for people. So you hit create account in the bottom, and then anything. And then you can you already download the app, but you can log in here. And then you just got to confirm your email. Sorry for the steps, guys. Should have had you do this before the talk. And then you confirm your email, and it will open up Slash. Okay. So I'll kind of talk about it while you guys are doing the rest of that process. The whole thing of this is it's super simple and minimal. It has an up next column of tasks and today and done. And the idea is that this is the up next column is where you have everything that you're going to be working on in the future. And your today list, you just have what you're working on today. The simple things that you think you can achieve today. Okay, so sorry if you guys are still installing and logging in and everything, but I'm just going to get everyone started on the next exercise, which will take some time. So the exercise is basically to figure out the first 10 steps towards working on whatever you want to build. So first off, just like word vomit, just write out every step you can possibly think of. You know, ideally starting at more of the beginner steps, but you know, if you have a step that comes up that's way down the line, totally cool. And then reorder them chronologically. You know, just put them in order of, you know, what's first, as simple as that. And one guiding principle here, you want to break down these tasks as much as possible. So, you know, if you have a task like build website, you want to break that down even further into as many individual steps as you can. So for building a website, you could say researching website creation tools like Wix or Squarespace. I recommend Wix. And then choosing a theme, writing an outline of the website content, choose a domain, etc. The idea is that when you come across a task like build website, you shouldn't have to think of like, oh, like where do I start? It should be very, very straightforward, a very clear action step for what you should be doing for that task. Sorry, I'm going to switch back to the chat in case you guys are like, oh my gosh, so many questions. Yeah, here's the... There's the link again. So I'm going to do this with you guys. I guess I got to come up with another idea of my own, just to kind of show you. But this should mostly be you in your own headspace here. I'm just going to silently do it in slash. And what if you're in slash? Why don't you guys do it in this column here? Because then we'll later use the today column for figuring out what your first tasks are. Let's see. So I'm going to do it for an idea that I have about getting everybody in the world to go outside and drum at the same time. It's a really crazy out there idea, I know. So I'm going to use that as an example. And I'm not going to talk for a bit so you guys can work. Check if you guys have any questions. Yeah, sorry, Masha, no split view. Let's see. Joanna or other people, can you not see? Oh, my bad. I didn't realize I had to share the screen and show my entire window. 1 second. Sorry, guys. That must have been confusing. Let's do this one more time. Okay. Sorry about that. Now you should be seeing my screen. That must have been really confusing. Sorry, guys. So as I was saying before, you want to use this. When you open up the app, there's this up next column that if you click on, you can see this is a list of where you want to be putting these tasks right now. And then this today is for tasks that you're doing today. So I already started here of my tasks in order for that crazy idea. This is a green tea latte type of thing. Sorry to hear that about Windows. what specifically isn't working for you guys? Oh, and don't worry about the 50 free task limit. I'll give you guys a code so that you guys can have it for free. Oh, interesting. Okay. So Windows users, I guess, were having issues with Windows. Oh man, jeez. Okay, so if you're on Windows, I guess use a Notes app or use something else. Let's see. And then I guess we probably need more time, but we only have 10 more minutes. Oh, okay. We're going to push forward just for the purpose of time here. Sorry for slowing that down with Slash. You guys should try it again later. So that's the basic idea, is get these, just list out all these steps and then put them in order. And I already ordered mine here. And the very simple thing with Slash or with whatever you're using is that this can get really overwhelming, this list, and seeing everything that's ahead of you and what you have to do. And someone even already asked questions here, like, any advice on how to meet the right partners for starting something. Like, this is step 12 or something in my list, like, I don't want to be thinking about that right now. I just want to be thinking about this. Choose first name of the event. So when I use Slash, the idea is that you only put stuff on your today list that you think you can actually accomplish today. So I think that I can choose a name and choose a domain and get social media handles in one day. And I might be able to design a website if I'm feeling chipper. But just for now, I'm going to do these three things. And then the kind of beauty of Slash is it helps you hyper-focus in on what you're working on. So when you're ready to start working, you hit this giant purple button, and it just shrinks down. Here, let me go to a different page so you can see it clearly. So it shrinks down to this window here, and it just stays there no matter what app you're on or window you're on. And it just shows the name of the thing that you're working on as well as the amount of time. And the time is actually really helpful. If you get distracted and find out that it's taking you 3 hours to choose the name of the event, or that you're on Facebook and forgot what you were doing, and you look down, it's been 45 minutes. It's cool to have that awareness. And then the idea is that whenever you're done, very simply, you just hit the done button, and it gives you a cool little celebration GIF, nice little dopamine hit of you doing a job well done. And then you just hit keep slashing, and it goes to the next task. And this is kind of the thing that Slash does that I haven't seen any other app do. And the idea is that you do your work in the morning, you do your thinking in the morning of what is important today. You make your list, and then you can just start working and never really think about it again. It's like having a little robot on your shoulder that says, do this, do this, do this. And as long as you can resist the temptation to go back and reorder things, it'll help you stay on task. And most importantly, work on the things that you deemed important when you were fresh and clear and intentional in the morning, versus getting tired throughout the day and then going back and kind of like avoiding difficult but important tasks. Yeah. Let's see, just going through the questions here. And Jenny, hopefully that was helpful. Cool. And just in the interest of time, it might feel like that was incomplete, but that's kind of my message to you guys, is that, there's no, like, it's not a crazy difficult process. It's not complex to build something. It's more about just being really focused and choosing what's right in front of you, and then doing that. And if you guys do that every single day, or even every other day, just consistently, and work towards something, then you can do anything. And you can build a mountain, and you kind of like look back and be like, how the hell did I do this? And the answer is that you did a small thing, or maybe a few small things, or maybe a large thing every day. Yeah. So we don't have too much time left, so let's just do a little bit of Q&A. What's up, Luke Robert Mason? I was building it during Zero Space, so yes, I did use it during Zero Space. Let's see. So if you guys have questions, feel free to post them in the event chat right now. Okay, James says, when you are feeling stuck, do you use just-in-time learning for the next skill set that you need to accomplish the next task? Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is kind of like just-in-time, really. It's only learning something when it's immediately needed. Garrett says, how often do you map out your goals and how far into the future? I'd say like I probably occasionally like go for a walk and have an idea and I write those down. But I don't think about more than well, maybe like the next week and the next day. You know, it's like I think the metaphor I use is that if you are like walking in a giant forest and you're moving towards a distant town that you can see in the distance, only if you climb to the top of the trees. It's you know, it's useful every once in a while to climb to the top of the tree and make sure that you're headed in the right direction. But for the most part, you want to be on the ground taking steps toward that. So in terms of long-term thinking, I think it's useful to occasionally think about where you're going, but for the most part, just have your head to the ground and taking steps toward that without thinking too much about if you're on the right track. Dun, dun, dun. Let's see. Senzan says, how do you balance the amount of time and energy you put in different projects when you don't know which one is going to work out? So especially if, you know, this is your first time building something yourself, I highly recommend building one thing. And I'm super hypocritical in saying that because I've almost always been working on at least 2, if not 4 things at the same time. And that's been a big lesson for me throughout the years. Of, you know, focusing in on one thing is really the most powerful thing that you can do. Just like focusing in on one task is really the way to move things forward. So, you know, if that's difficult for you, if balancing, ideally dropping one of the projects that you feel less passionate about. But otherwise, you know, it can be useful to separate your days. And so you work on one project on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and the other Tuesday, Thursday, or even morning on one project, evening on another. Matthew asking about patent issues and sharing ideas openly. Yes, I'm a big believer that ideas are a dime a dozen. And I want to answer this because this comes up a lot. Being concerned that people are going to steal your ideas. It's so hard to make something, let alone if it wasn't your idea and it's not something that you're truly excited about. Good luck taking someone else's idea and making it happen, because it's hard enough to build your own ideas. And it's just so much more it's so much more valuable to share your ideas with the world and get it out there and get feedback and partners. I think you're shooting yourself in the foot if you're worried about people stealing your ideas. Rajda, you asked a fantastic question. What do you do if you have too many projects that you're genuinely interested in? I mean, if you really can't decide between them, roll the dice and give it a go on that one project for a week. Just, you know, be curious and be exploratory and really dig in there. And, you know, the more time you spend on something, the more you're going to realize if it's really, really aligned with who you are and what's exciting. If it's exciting, you'll get obsessed with it and you'll forget about the other ideas. And if that doesn't happen, then maybe you chose the wrong one and you can try again in week number 2. Masha, yeah, I'm developing Slash every single day. There's a new version with probably 50 new features and a bunch of cool stuff specifically related to what I'm talking about today coming out next week. Cindy's asking how many projects of mine have actually failed. It's a great question. It's hard to say like what is a success and what is a failure. There are, I think, maybe 2 or 3 things that I put a serious amount of time into and then decided not to move forward with. But so far I've been lucky enough to never experience failure of putting something out in the world and then it just falling flat and not working. But that could change any day. Ideas are cheap indeed. Orion, for Slash, for the invite code, when you sign up, it asks for a code. That's not where you're going to enter that. It's going to be later when it asks you to pay. Gosh, I should have set up a code before. Let's see. I'll have a code set up after, and I'll figure out with Mike how we can send it all out to you guys. But you get 50 free tasks. If you guys get through 50 tasks before you get this code, then you're doing an incredible job. So let's see. Larda, about subtasks, there are no subtasks currently. Mateen, how do you recommend that the prolific idea haver separate the good, promising ideas from the less promising or feasible ones? That's another great question. So same advice as before of just choose one. You're not committed, just try it out for a week. And then start talking to people about it. That's huge and super helpful. It's easy to think something is a good idea, alone and in quarantine especially. But start bouncing it off people. I mean, don't be discouraged by people not understanding or believing in it. Some of the best ideas are too novel so that most people won't get it. In fact, if you're still excited about it despite all that feedback, that's actually a very good sign. But yeah, get feedback and iterate and try things and try to fail. Let's see. Looking for more questions here. Looks like we have 30 more seconds. Augusto, I really wouldn't think about patenting at this point. I mean, unless you're like all the way there, then patenting is something you should think about much further down the line. We're out of time, so I guess thank you guys. Thanks so much for spending this hour with me, for dealing with our technical hiccups, and for trying something new. And please feel free to reach out to me like directly. Facebook is a great way to do that. Just add me as a friend on there. Here is my Facebook. Probably the best way to get in contact, and I'm always happy to give advice, bounce ideas off me, whatever you want. And my advice is like, just go do this, guys. Like, you have this framework. It's never going to be easy, but it's going to be simple because you're doing one thing at a time. Go and try this. Try this for a week and just see how it feels to make actual movement towards something you're excited to build. So thank you so much, guys.